Cutie pies, welcome to clay. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be getting clay for the first time, and we are also going to be learning how to throw a slab, which just means creating a flat piece of clay, which is going to end up being the base for our entire landscape, our entire ceramic relief tile. So I'm very excited to work with you today in clay. So the first thing you need to know is that in order to work with clay today, you're going to need just a few things. You are going to need to get clay from the pug mill. I will be showing you where the pug mill is and how to get clay from it. You need to get a canvas blanket, which is just this piece of canvas. And you are going to need a wooden paddle like this and a needle tool, which looks like this. So once your area is set up and you have those things, you are going to be ready to wedge your clay. The first thing we always do with our clay is wedge it, and the reason is to get out any pesky little air bubbles that might be in your clay. So wedging is something you do with the palms of your hands. There are lots of different ways to wedge clay, but I'm going to show you my favorite. So I'll start by doing it slowly, and what I do to start is I take my palms and I just apply pressure down on the clay. And you can see if you're doing it correctly, it will make indentations of your hands. And then I turn it up toward me and I press again. Up and press. Up and press. If it starts stretching out this way, I just pick it up like this and I press and up. Press and up. Press and up. Once I really get going and I've practiced this, I'm just leaning on this canvas so it doesn't move around, I will go a little faster like what you see right now. And what I'm doing is I'm just pushing out any excess air bubbles so that my clay is ready to go. I wedge my clay about 25 times, and you will start knowing that your clay is ready to go when you are not seeing a bunch of wrinkles in it and it seems pretty even and consistent. So this is going to make a really nice piece of clay for me. So now I've got my wedged clay. And what I'm going to do next is I'm actually just going to paddle it a little with my hands to get it any cracks out. I just want it to be as smooth as possible because ultimately I want my clay slab to be smooth. So the smoother my clay can be now, the easier it'll be to make it smooth later. So I'm going to actually move just to this dry area. And the first thing I'm going to do, I've kind of got this organic looking ball lump piece of clay, and I'm going to take my palm and I just want to sort of paddle it down. And I'm paddling in circles, and if there's an area that's higher than the rest, like here, I'm just going to give it a little smack. And then before it starts sticking, because it will start sticking if I paddle too much, I'm going to flip it over. There's a high area here. I'm going to paddle it down. I'm being gentle but firm. And I'm just paddling. And what I'm trying to do is make my piece of clay a little bit thinner and easier to manage. And what I'm going to do next now, because it's fairly thin now, I would say it's about 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick, kind of depending on where I am. It's pretty smooth, it's pretty flat, and I'm going to start doing the throwing motion now. So to throw my clay into a slab, what I'm really doing is stretching the clay out here on the canvas until it gets smooth and flat. So let's try it. The motion that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be holding the clay here, and the motion is going to be something kind of like this. So that just so you can see, I'll have the clay in my hand and I'll go toward the canvas and I'll go like that. So let me just show you what that looks like. Putting my hand here on the canvas so it doesn't move. And you can see that it stretched out and got longer in the direction where my fingers were pointing. So my fingers were pointing that way and it stretched out and got longer. So now I want it to stretch this way, so I'm pointing my fingers this way, and I'll show you how it gets longer again. My hand is on the canvas, I'm holding the clay, and you can see it stretched that way. This time I want it to stretch out in this direction, so I'm going to point my fingers in that direction, and I'm just going to throw it several times. And it is getting thinner and thinner. I'm going to hold it with both hands. And then after I threw it, I I pressed my hands onto the canvas so that it didn't get away from me. And the reason I'm switching to both hands now is because my piece of clay is getting pretty big. So now I've got a pretty thin, even piece of clay, and this is what I'm going to be working with. So I like how this looks. So what I'll do next is I'm going to take a straight edge of some type. Like you see here, this is a straight edge. You could use a clay ruler or really anything. And I'm just going to lay it on my clay. And I'm going to cut my clay. Now, I want my tool, my needle tool, to be perpendicular to the table so that when I cut, there is a 90-degree angle here. But it's going to be really hard to drag the needle tool if I keep it straight up and down like this. So I'm going to keep the angle perpendicular to the table. I'll show you in this direction first. So I'm bending the needle tool toward me so that it glides more easily, but I'm keeping this angle at 90 degrees, and I'm going to kind of just show you. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here and over here. And then I'm going to move this here and cut. So I now have this little rectangle. I'm going to tear away this excess clay, and you can see that when I cut this, it has a nice flat edge here so that the edge of my work is going to be flat and not, and let me just show you what I don't want to have happen. I want the edge to be sturdy and firm and flat. So if I cut not on a 90-degree angle, like let's say I cut something like this, like try to go more of a 45-degree angle, I'm getting this sharp, thin edge here, and that's not going to be a sturdy edge for my project. So you can see it's flat there, and it's going to be flimsy and thin on the edge. I want it to stay even here and flat. So you can see the difference here. This edge is super even, super flat, super sturdy. So that's why I kept my needle tool at that angle where it stays perpendicular. And you might have to mess around a little bit with that angle, and that's why we're practicing. So I just made this clay tile, which is great because this is going to be the base for the rest of my assignment. Well done. Go practice.